Alabama at Arkansas. Marco, what should bettors be looking at?
Plain and simple, this is the first real test Alabama's had this year. Playing Arkansas on the road, SEC road game, always tough to go. Arkansas plays with huge revenge. They've got drilled the last 2 years by Alabama. Big home game. Arkansas had a win on the road last week at Georgia, hard-fought game, and they showed grit on the road. But the one thing that they had trouble with last week, and they got to get fixed for this week, Georgia completely shut down their running game. If they don't get the running game going this week, Alabama's defense will cause problems for Mallet, the QB for Arkansas.
Okay. So at least once a week we run into this, and I don't know if it's your 31 years in the business prior to pregame, but we're about answers. We're not about questions. You just gave, it'd be like, next, get the free pick, or, you know, next, pay $25 and you get this pick. No, no, no. We're giving them the information here for free. So let me kind of go through, you frame the questions. Let's talk about the answers. You talk about revenge. Now, there's two ways to look at it when a team is dominated, beat up. One is, oh, my God, we're going to get them back. And two is, my God, I don't want no more of that. Kind of like Mr. T, Rocky III, when he's beating on Stallone, he's like, I got a lot of more, got a lot of more. Well, that's how Alabama's looking and thinking, I'm sure. Now, is Arkansas, in this case, do you account for that? Because it's easy to say, that's the old, Trendmeister, oh, they've lost 2 in a row, double revenge. But that's not always good, I don't think. Sometimes it's going to be a fear factor. Specifically, how do you handicap the revenge in this case?
Well, in this instance, by far of the last 3 years going into this game and the previous 2 seasons, this is the best Arkansas team that Alabama will have faced of the 3 editions. So I think they have the personnel this year to make a game of it. Alabama not at 100%. Ingram came back last week. He was impressive in limited carries. You know, this guy is just a couple weeks removed from surgery.
All right, let's not ramble. Let's drill down into this, please. So what you're saying is because Arkansas has been beat up, but this feels like their chance at redemption, that it might be about truly, hey, here's our chance.
Absolutely.
Almost like if you were playing pickup basketball, you're getting your butt kicked, but then the big brother comes back from college, and you're going to get a chance to play with your brother at center.
Hopefully he's good.
Well, that's the assumption. Okay, now, here's a factor that really jumps out at me. Florida next week for Alabama. How are you handicapping that?
Well, actually, I have a note on this is a bad scheduling spot, period, for Alabama. If you look at what they've had over the last 4 weeks, 2 weeks ago they had the big game against Penn State. That was a statement game to start off. Penn State sent a freshman quarterback into Alabama, so they got the win there. Then they got to go on the road this week to Arkansas, another tough game. They had an easy spot last week, but then Florida next week. That's a tough 4-week stretch. Three games out of 4, you got to really be on your toes for Alabama.
But I thought you said early that this is the first real test for Alabama.
It is the first real test for them because, as I said, when they played Penn State, they were playing a freshman quarterback for Penn State. They didn't have the offensive threat to that defense in that Penn State game.
Okay. Here is well, let's go back to the revenge real quick because this number jumped out at me. Arkansas's quarterback last year was 12 of 35. That's 33%. So, I mean, it feels like this Alabama team's dominant, and I do think it extends to my next point. It's always easy to pick the dominant team. Hey, the Steelers' D looks good. Maybe we should go under. That's easy. And usually you have to pay a premium for that, and you do that with the Patriots, you do that with the Cowboys, etc. In the NFL, you do that with Florida. I'm not so sure yet that Alabama has the proper premium on them, or at least they don't have any extreme premium. Here's why. 5-0 ATS in September, so they start fast. 9 of 11 ATS on the road. This is a team that goes on the road well. This is a team that wins early. This feels like a really good spot for Alabama. What's your thoughts on the idea that usually if you fade the #1 team, you're getting value, but maybe not yet with Alabama?
I will agree with you there. And one thing, Coach Saban's been a guy, and we even saw it in the championship game last year. He's not opposed to throwing in that late score at the end of the game, which when you're laying points as Alabama's doing, that's a good factor to know because, a lot of coaches go conservative when they get the big lead and have mercy on the other team. He doesn't show that at all.
And we talked about last week with Florida specifically how these elite college teams travel almost like an NFL team, and thus the road disadvantage is not as high, and that's why things like 9 of 11 ATS on the road make sense. All right, any closing thoughts before your projection?
Looking at this game, I have Alabama slight to win the game, but I'm going to go more to the total when we get here. And I think that Arkansas is going to try to slow the game down. I think they will have better success this week running the ball against Alabama. And the reason I say that, I went back to talked about that Penn State game when they went in with a freshman quarterback. So you know that Penn State was going to have a conservative game plan with a freshman quarterback. Penn State was able to run the ball for 4 yards a carry against Alabama when you thought that, Alabama would have a game plan that's going to, stack the run. So that's why with a quarterback that has some talent, Mallett's had a good year so far, I think they'll have success. They might come out and pass early to set up the run later. And I would like them to keep this game close, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
All right, so what's your exact projection?
I have it Alabama 24-20.
With an opinion towards the under, then.
Right.
Okay, now it's your turn to continue the conversation in the comments section with Marco and me. And next up, we're going to be talking Stanford at Notre Dame.